Hell is other people. This well-known idea comes from the existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. What he meant was this: we often live under the gaze of others, trapped by how people perceive us. We allow their opinions to shape our identity, and in doing so, we fall into a cycle of constant anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional pain. Think about it. Don't we all experience this from time to time? We long to be liked, to be accepted, to be understood. So we adjust ourselves to fit in, to be what others expect us to be. But when others don't respond the way we hoped, when they criticize, misunderstand, or ignore us, we feel hurt, frustrated, and insecure. And the deeper pain is this: we start losing touch with who we really are. Even worse, no matter how hard we try, we still can't please everyone. That's the kind of emotional hell Sartre was talking about. But from the perspective of Buddhism, the source of our suffering isn't really other people. The true cause of suffering is our own attachment to others, our clinging to their approval, their validation, and their opinions. In Buddhism, there is a profound teaching. The three realms exist only in the mind. All phenomena are but manifestations of consciousness. This means that everything we experience in life, joy, sorrow, anger, anxiety, is ultimately a projection of our own mind. We often think it's others who make us angry, hurt, or anxious. But the Dharma turns the question around and asks, who is clinging to the desire to be liked? Who is so attached to being understood? Who is wounded by just a few words? The truth is, what really pains us is not what others say or do, but our interdependence, our attachments, and our ego. When you're caught up in thoughts like, he should like me, or how could she misunderstand me, you're no longer free. You're bound by others, and suffering arises. That is the real hell. In Buddhist cosmology, the realm of hell is the most painful among the 6 realms of existence. But the cause of falling into hell is not what others do to you. It's the anger that arises within your own mind. As the Sutra of the Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha says, a single thought of hatred creates the cause for hell. Think about it. Where does most of our pain in relationships really come from? It's not always what others say or do. Often, it's our expectations, our attachments, and our deep desire for control, validation, or understanding. For example, you feel angry because someone didn't appreciate you. You feel hurt because they ignored your needs. You keep hoping they'll change, that they'll finally respond, but they don't. These aren't just external conflicts. They're the result of 2 powerful forces crashing into each other, our ego clashing with theirs. In Buddhism, we call this attachment to self and attachment to others. And the truth is, freedom doesn't come from changing others. It comes from releasing that inner voice that says, they must act a certain way for me to be okay. The Buddha taught us to relate to others through the practice of the 4 immeasurables, or the 4 boundless qualities of heart. Loving kindness. May all beings be happy. Compassion. May all beings be free from suffering. Sympathetic joy. May I rejoice in the happiness of others. Equanimity. May I stay balanced without clinging or resisting. That last one, equanimity, is key. Many people practice kindness and compassion, but end up feeling emotionally exhausted. Why? because they've forgotten the wisdom of letting go. It's okay to care, but we can't control how others respond. It's okay to give, but we can't demand anything in return. When we let go of that tight grip, of needing others to be a certain way, we begin to find peace, even in the midst of imperfection. Buddhism doesn't teach us to be cold or emotionally distant. It simply reminds us of a deeper truth. All relationships are shaped by conditions. They arise, change, and eventually pass. Nothing stays fixed. Nothing can offer lasting security. So if you place your sense of worth or happiness in someone else's hands, your life will constantly rise and fall based on a comment, a reaction, a moment of approval or disapproval. Rather than struggling in the hell of other people's expectations, Buddhism invites us to come home, back to the calm, clear space within ourselves. So, how do we move beyond this inner trap, this suffering born from constantly seeking approval? In the next part of this video, we'll explore 5 Buddhist principles that can help us release our attachment to how others see us and begin to live with greater clarity, freedom, and inner strength. Because only when we stop looking outward for validation can we truly awaken the wisdom and power that already lives within us. 1. Don't be afraid to be alone. In Buddhism, being alone isn't about loneliness. It's actually a path toward awakening. Solitude isn't about avoiding people. It's about returning to yourself. It's a chance to pause, to look inward, and to gently clear away the mental noise. But in today's world, especially in fast-paced, always connected cultures, being alone can feel uncomfortable. Many people feel anxious eating alone, spending holidays alone, or even just sitting quietly in a room by themselves. Social media constantly sends the message, you should always be sharing, always be connected. That's how you matter. But Buddhism teaches something different. Real strength comes from the clarity that arises in stillness. Think about your daily life. You're rushing through crowded subways, juggling work meetings, answering texts. Your senses are constantly flooded with information. Now, imagine this. Just 15 minutes a day, you turn off your phone, sit on your balcony, close your eyes, and simply breathe. That's meditation. That's practice. And in that short window of silence, you begin to notice your thoughts, soften your stress, and slowly let go of what you've been clinging to. When we give ourselves time to be alone with awareness, we begin to see the impermanence of our thoughts and emotions. We remember that we're not our worries, not our titles, not our roles. And in that remembering, something powerful wakes up: wisdom. Being alone gives us the space to reflect on our habits, to notice our reactions, and to gently shift toward more mindful choices. It can be as simple as sitting on a park bench, sunlight filtering through the trees, and realizing this moment isn't missing anything. That's joy. Or making yourself a warm cup of tea, cooking a simple meal, or going for a walk with no destination. When your heart is fully present, these everyday things become sources of deep peace and quiet contentment. And here's the beautiful part. When you learn to be with yourself, really be with yourself, you stop looking to others to tell you who you are. You stop needing validation and start building a sense of wholeness from the inside out. And when your heart feels full, You're able to love others in a healthy, generous way, not out of need, but out of truth. So when you embrace solitude, you can enter deeper states of meditation. You become more aware of your inner habits and thought patterns, and you open up space for true learning, healing, and transformation. Eventually, you realize you're no longer afraid to be alone, because within you, there's already a calm, wise presence that will walk with you through anything. 2. Stop relying on others for your happiness. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This isn't just a wise quote. It's a powerful path to true freedom. But in modern life, we often fall into a common misunderstanding. We believe that happiness is something others can give us. If someone approves of me, then I'm worthy. If someone loves me, then I can be happy. If I get enough likes on social media, then today was a success. But Buddhism reminds us that kind of dependence is a dangerous form of attachment. When we hand over control of our emotions and sense of worth to other people, we make our hearts fragile, easily shaken, easily hurt. Because here's the truth: you can't control how others feel. Not even the people who love you the most can always meet your expectations. The Buddha taught all beings suffer, and suffering begins with attachment, clinging to praise, seeking validation. It's like trying to hold on to sand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. Real happiness doesn't come from applause. It comes from clarity, from awakening. Only when we stop relying on others and stop letting our mood rise and fall based on outside approval can we truly begin to master our inner world. You don't need anyone's approval to prove your worth. You don't need someone else's love to feel whole. You don't need likes, shares, or comments to decide if today was a good day. When you release your grip on external validation and return to the stillness within, you'll realize something powerful. Happiness was never far away. It was always right here, waiting in the space of awareness, in the quiet moment you stopped reaching outward. The practice of spiritual growth is about bringing the mind back again and again, not chasing the world, but turning inward to rediscover your natural completeness. And when you truly understand that you don't need anyone's permission to feel at peace, you'll begin to taste what the Buddha meant by true freedom, a happiness that isn't dependent on anything or anyone, a joy that is steady, unshakable, and deeply your own. 3. You don't have to fear what others think. In Buddhism, we're taught to look within, not to constantly seek approval from the outside. So much of our anxiety, insecurity, and self-doubt doesn't come from what's actually happening in our lives, but from how we think others might be judging us. Do I look weird wearing this? Was that a dumb thing to say? Should I post this? What if no one likes it? This kind of mental chatter keeps us small. It makes us hold back our true voice, our creativity, even our joy, just to protect an image we think others want to see. But in the Dhammapada, the Buddha reminds us, don't focus on the faults of others. Look to your own thoughts and actions instead. In other words, stop wasting your energy on how others see you. Start bringing awareness back to how you're living, how you're showing up, and whether you're being true to yourself. From the Buddhist perspective, our obsession with fame and praise, with looking good in the eyes of others, is one of the roots of suffering. When we crave approval, we lose our freedom. We start saying things we don't mean, doing things we don't believe in, and shrinking ourselves just to be accepted. But here's the truth. What others say about you says more about them than it does about you. A person filled with fear might criticize your courage. Someone jealous might try to downplay your success. And someone who doesn't understand your journey might misjudge your choices. That's why the Buddha taught us to develop right view and right understanding. These are part of the Eightfold Path. They help us see clearly. We can't control the noise of the world, but we can train our minds to stay grounded and clear. When you begin practicing mindfulness and insight meditation, samatha and vipassana, you start to notice something powerful. It's not other people's words that cause suffering. It's your attachment to those words, your reaction, your identification. Let's say someone says, "You're not successful." If you don't equate success with your self-worth, those words won't stick. But if you've already tied your value to being seen a certain way, that same comment will hurt deeply. This is what Buddhism points to when it says, "Let the dust of the world pass through you," without clinging to it. When you no longer fear judgment, no longer depend on praise or approval, something shifts. You feel a quiet kind of strength, a peaceful freedom. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to pretend. You just show up as you are, honest, grounded, real. And from that place of authenticity, a deep inner stillness arises. This is what the Buddha called the nectar of liberation, a state where you're no longer chasing validation, no longer running from criticism, not because you've silenced every opinion, but because you've stopped needing them to define you. So don't turn other people's opinions into chains for your soul. Real freedom and peace belong to those who are willing to stay grounded in their own truth, those who live mindfully, courageously, and fully present in who they are. 4. Stop draining your inner peace just to please others. There's a saying in Buddhism, "Silence brings more peace than 1,000 words." It means that no matter how much you say or do, how perfect you try to be, nothing compares to the deep, steady calm of a peaceful heart. In today's world, especially in Western culture, we're taught from a young age to be nice, to be a team player, to not let others down. On the surface, this sounds like kindness, but in reality, it often leads us to suppress how we really feel and blur the boundaries of who we truly are. The Buddha never taught us to please everyone. Instead, he taught us how to relate to others with both compassion and wisdom. In one teaching, the Buddha said, "Do not be joyful just because others are joyful. Do not be sad just because others are sad. Dwell steadily in your own heart." In other words, your emotional world shouldn't be determined by someone else's reaction. Buddhism encourages us to cultivate compassion, yes, but real compassion must be rooted in self-respect and inner stability. It's like the Buddha said, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're exhausted, anxious, or emotionally depleted, you won't be able to offer real kindness to anyone, not even yourself. Let's say you're constantly saying yes to friends and family, helping them move, babysitting, attending every event, showing up whenever you're asked, even when you're running on empty. You don't really want to. but you're afraid of disappointing them. So you push through again and again. And over time, you start to feel resentful, burnt out. You might even begin to question your worth because you've given so much, but feel unseen or taken for granted. This is where mindfulness comes in. If you pause, even for a moment, and really check in with your body, your breath, your emotions, you might notice your inner peace slipping away. And when you finally say no, you're not rejecting someone else. You're saying yes to yourself. You're honoring your own well-being. When we place calm, awareness, and authenticity first, we begin to truly care for ourselves. And only then do we have the strength to genuinely care for others. In Buddhism, this is called inner protection, the practice of guarding your mind, protecting your energy, and keeping your heart clear. That means speaking honestly when someone's expectations feel unfair, taking breaks when giving becomes too much, letting go of the need to be liked or approved of at all times. The more you protect your inner space, the more clearly you'll see which relationships are truly healthy and which are built on the condition, I'll like you if you keep meeting my needs. And here's the transformation. When your mind becomes genuinely still and grounded, the kindness you offer others no longer comes from pressure or fear. It flows naturally. You're no longer performing love. You're living it. As the Buddha taught, from inner fullness, compassion flows effortlessly. You no longer give to please. You give because you are whole. You no longer say yes out of fear. You act from a place of truth. So, when you protect your own peace, you're also protecting the most honest and beautiful parts of your relationships. Because, from that place of grounded presence, you can finally connect with others without losing yourself. 5. Focus on what you can control. In Buddhism, the Buddha reminds us again and again, suffering doesn't come from what happens outside of us. It comes from how we respond. So much of modern stress and anxiety comes from trying to control things we were never meant to control. We want others to like us. We want everything to go according to plan. We want relationships to stay smooth and the world to remain stable. But the truth is, the more you cling to what you can't control, the more you'll feel frustrated, anxious, disappointed, and even lost. There's a powerful teaching in Buddhism. Attachment to external conditions brings suffering. You try to grip life tighter, but like sand, it keeps slipping through your fingers. One phrase sums this up beautifully. Master your mind, or it will master you. This isn't just about controlling your emotions on the surface. It's about deep inner work. Learning to recognize your thoughts, transform old habits, and steer your life with awareness. You can't control whether people understand you. You can't control if others keep their promises. You can't control what people say about you on social media. But here's what you can control: how you choose to respond, with patience, compassion, or reactivity. Whether you observe your emotions mindfully or let them run your life. Whether you stay centered during chaos or get swept away by it. That kind of inner control is real strength. In Buddhism, this is the essence of vipassana, insight meditation. Not grabbing at life from the outside, but gently turning inward, observing, releasing. The Buddha never asked us to escape from the world. He taught us to place our attention where it truly matters, on what we can actually change, ourselves. The more you observe your own reactions, the less power the outside world has over you, and the more grounded, spacious, and empowered you'll become. You can ask yourself these three questions every day. What in this situation can I truly control? Are my emotions an automatic reaction or a mindful response? Is my action coming from fear and frustration or from clarity and compassion? When these become part of your daily reflection, you begin living with right mindfulness and right thought, two elements of the Eightfold Path. You'll find yourself complaining less, reacting less, and spending less energy in mental conflict. Instead, that energy goes into your growth, your practice, your creativity, and your compassion. And as you become more steady inside, the people around you feel it too. Your partner may become calmer because of your calm. Your child may feel seen because of your awareness. Your team may trust you more because you're not ruled by your emotions. This is the quiet power of the Dharma, not to escape the world, but to return to it with clarity and heart. So don't waste your life trying to control what's beyond your reach. You may not control the wind, but you can always adjust your sail. And when you turn your energy inward, you'll discover that's where true freedom begins. Coming back to yourself. That's the real way forward. When we place our happiness in the hands of others, in their opinions, their moods, their approval, we lose our inner freedom. Our peace begins to rise and fall with every comment, every glance, every silence. But in Buddhism, the path of practice is not about avoiding relationships. It's about waking up within them. We must learn to be alone, not in isolation, but in wholeness, and stop relying on others to feel complete. We must let go of the fear of judgment and stop trying to please the world at the cost of our truth. We must protect our peace and stop draining ourselves just to make others comfortable. We must turn inward and stop wasting energy trying to control what was never ours to control. Because only when you begin to focus on your own awareness, your own growth, your own path of practice, will you realize true peace doesn't come when others respond a certain way. It comes when your heart knows how to rest where it is. You don't need to be perfect in anyone's eyes. You only need to be real, awake, and free in your own. So may you return to yourself again and again, and may you find in the Dharma the wisdom to stay grounded right here in this very moment. Thank you for watching.